Welcome. Thank you for joining us again today. Throughout history, many odd and disturbing encounters with unexplained beings have taken place. From the existence of extraterrestrial life to sightings of Sasquatch, we humans have a penchant for documenting those things which we cannot explain. Today's video focuses in on 3 frightening instances and locations that an evil entity has or continues to make appearances. No greater evil exists than Satan himself. Today we will explore the circumstances surrounding 3 times that Lucifer is said to have taken physical form here on Earth. Let's get into it. Number 1. The Devil's Footprints, Devon, England. In February of 1855, the residents of Devon in England came across some very odd footprints when they would start their day. These footprints appeared to be a hoof, which that in itself is not odd whatsoever. What makes these footprints so odd is that they were in a straight line, like a bipedal walking like a human, and not quadrupedal like a goat. The prints were 4 inches long by 3 inches across, with a stride of approximately 16 inches. The prints appeared up to 100 miles or 160 kilometers apart. People became extremely frightened when they found that the footprints would appear to walk over or hover above obstacles in their path. Several large fences and walls would have the hoof prints leading up to them, only for the prints to stop at the obstacle and re-emerge directly on the opposite side. Large barns and buildings had the footprints leading up to them and continue onto their roofs. Even pipes as small as 4 inches in diameter would have footprints leading up to them, only to have them disappear. An early news article that was archived from the event states, "It appears on Thursday night last there was a very heavy snowfall in the neighborhood of Exeter and the south of Devon. On the following morning, the inhabitants of the above towns were surprised at discovering the footmarks of some strange and mysterious animal endowed with the power of ubiquity, as the footprints were to be seen in all kinds of unaccountable places. On the tops of houses and narrow walls, in gardens, in courtyards, enclosed by high walls and palings, as well in open fields. The residents of the affected areas in Devon became very frightened. They stopped leaving their homes after dark and feared that the devil, or whatever ghostly creature this was, would attack them. There were some who were skeptical, however. The main argument against the devil paying them a visit on that evening was the simple fact that there was no possible way to have confirmed that the footprints appeared so far apart. The civilians of those days did not have the modern modes of transportation that we utilize today. They would have had to travel through heavy snow either by foot or horseback, which would have been a very treacherous trip with the weather pouring snow. Another explanation was that an experimental balloon being weighted down by dragging shackles had been mistakenly launched from a nearby observatory. It is claimed that this was kept a secret because the balloon had caused so much damage as it crashed into buildings and fences. There is no documentation of this occurring, though. Even the local clergy felt that he needed to fabricate a story to try and calm his parishioners. Reverend G.M. Musgrove wrote a letter to the Illustrated London News on the 3rd of March 1885 in hopes of calming the residents of the towns. The letter said the following: "I found a very apt opportunity to mention the name of Kangaroo. In allusion to the report then current, I certainly did not pin my faith to that version of the mystery. But with the state of the public mind, of the villagers, dreading to go out after sunset, under the conviction that this was the devil's work, rendered it very desirable that a turn should be given to such a degraded and vitiated notion. And I was thankful that a kangaroo served to disperse ideas so derogatory." Obviously, a kangaroo hopping around in the winter of Devon, England is quite ridiculous. Most of the documentation of the events from that February in 1855 come from the personal letters and documents of Reverend H.T. Ellicombe. Many believe that the event must have been extremely traumatizing, since the Reverend felt it important enough to write and leave the events in his personal letters and documents. It is said that a bout of mass hysteria followed these events. Who can really blame them, though? How would we react if the devil came in physical form to our hometown tonight and roamed around? I suggest that most of us would be quite frightened and in a panic. Number 2. The Devil's Tramping Ground. Many cultures and locations have great legends and lore regarding supernatural events. But the residents of Bear Creek, North Carolina, have the ominous distinction of having the place where Satan takes physical form to coordinate his evil deeds. Author and journalist John William Harton has said of this location, "Chatham natives say that the devil goes there to walk in circles as he thinks up new means of causing trouble for humanity. There sometimes, during the dark of night, the majesty of the underworld of evil silently tramps around that bare circled thinking, plotting and planning against good in behalf of wrong." The site has had paranormal documentation since 1882, but tales and legends of the location go back over 300 years. Native Americans do not consider the site as evil, but as a historic landmark remembering many of their great victories against the settling Europeans. The site itself contains a 40-foot circular patch of land that has been barren for an exceptionally long time. Animals refuse to go near the location, with documentation of hunting dogs and horses frightfully pulling up when approaching the circle. At night, it has been reported that red glowing eyes can be often seen within the circle. Rhythmic hums emanate from the area, putting people to sleep, only for them to wake up miles away from the circle hours later. It is claimed that when placing objects in the circle, they will either disappear or be thrown out of the site. On several occasions, geological survey groups have tested the soil at the location, but have yet to give any scientific explanation as to why no living organisms will grow or inhabit the area. Many legends speak of ancient satanic rituals taking place there to summon Lucifer. Some have claimed that Satan comes there at night to gleefully dance and coordinate his evil attacks on man. The location is a true mystery that holds up little explanation for the paranormal events that have taken place there. Skeptics and believers alike have little evidence of what is going on in the circle. Does Satan manifest himself there? I do not know, but it does appear something sinister either has or is happening at this small patch of land. Number 3. The Devil's Footprints at Chateau De Morveau. On January 10, 1945, as residents awoke near the chateau, they found some very strange footprints, much like the footprints that we discussed earlier in Devon, England. On that day, and the days preceding, there was an enormous amount of snow that had fallen. This in itself makes it odd that the footprints would be there. Unlike the occurrence of the footprints in Devon, these footprints were much smaller. They were 2.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. However, much like our previous case, the prints did appear to be in a single file line, appearing to be created by a bipedal creature. These prints were found for miles, covering fields, forests, and even crossing bodies of water. There was not any other evidence of animals being in that area that night. Another astonishing aspect of this event is that the snow was 4 foot high in some areas and was undisturbed other than the footprints themselves. If an animal or human had been traveling making the hoof prints, then the snow should have been disturbed while the body of the perpetrator was creating the footprints. There has been very little explanation for the events of that night. Throughout mankind's history, we have passed down oral and written tales and legends of unexplained events. There are none more frightening when taken into context than those that we have discussed today. If Satan is manifesting himself into physical form and walking through these locations, The speculation of what he is doing strikes fear from what he might be up to. We can only imagine. Thank you so much for joining us for another video. I hope that you all enjoyed these frightening legends and tales that we discussed today. Please like, subscribe, share, and post a comment. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you're updated anytime we post content. Until the next one.